This guy's Jinkazama 1993. This is a comment from him. Yu-Gi-Oh used to be kind of like chess, and now it's just throw up.
It was never like chess ever, right? It was chess if you start out with 5 pieces, you randomize the pieces you get, and sometimes you'll get you draw the queen and your opponent draws 5 pawns, and then you smoke them, right? That's how it is still to this day. So you're still under that RNG 5 card opening hand. You're under the yoke of that, I guess. It was never like chess. Chess is the inherently the most fair game ever designed. Yu-Gi-Oh was never that. Right? This is definitely rose-colored glasses talking. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have a really fun video where I react to Emperor something or other. Name will be up here somewhere, and he'll be also in the description, and I'll tag him in the title so that he knows that I am commentating on his video and not trying to do this in a very slimy way. Just going to react to this Yugi-boomer, and I'm going to react to his video where he makes wide sweeping claims about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, how it is in the state that it is today, and how it was in the past. So let's get into this.
What's up, everybody? Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here, and I know it's been a minute since I have done a Yu-Gi-Oh video since my last 2 Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and one Yu-Gi-Oh video helped by the Yugioh reviewer. Now, I'm not going to retract anything I have said about Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm going to point something out that, unfortunately, the toxic part of the Yu-Gi-Oh fandom doesn't seem to understand. If you love something, if you love a game, if you love a movie series, TV series, comic series, book series, anything of that sort.
This man just drew Winged Dragon of Ra in Gravekeepers. Man is cooking for real.
If you truly love a series, then you will criticize a series and point out its flaws and point out what really doesn't work about it anymore, or in fact, what is practically a failing part of said product.
Let's define failing, but I'll hear you out.
With Yu-Gi-Oh, the one thing that cannot be denied, and fanboys of Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm talking about the toxic fanboys, the ones that have been literally still in the comment section of both my Yu-Gi-Oh videos, who still haven't been able to come up with any concrete arguments. They just rather insult, name call, and trash talk. And you know what that...
So if that's the case, those are trolls. Don't address them. But there's plenty of people that play the modern game that have good opinions. My God, he just drew Obelisk too. That have rightful good opinions. And at the end of the day, these are opinions, right? What flavor of tea you like. You like old school, you like new school, whatever. I don't believe the best way to go about it is just strawmanning the opponent or ad hominem saying like, hey, they're all just, they have no argument. All they do is talk trash in the comments.
That shows, that means they are not
if they do, don't talk to them.
enough to defend the product. They're not intelligent enough to defend their points of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Possibly,
and these
could
are
be the
people
case.
that defend the power creep in the game, which is one of the biggest complaints about Yu-Gi-Oh, which is why not that many people...
The power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh is retarded, but power creep in itself is not a negative thing. It's only uncontrolled power creep that is the problem. But yeah, let's hear you out.
Enjoy playing the game anymore, and they try to dismiss you just saying, oh, you're a Yu-Gi-Oh boomer. Here's the thing. If people were boomers, why...
You are a Yu-Gi-Oh boomer. So am I. It's fine. It's not an insult.
People still playing the game. As much of the flaws there is with the game, I still play the game. I've had a family member, my cousin Joseph, who used to do the tournaments all the way up until at least, I want to say, he retired doing the tournaments from 2015, 2016 because he settled down and had a family of his own. He's the one that showed me and taught me everything about the game, you know? And the sad part is, even he agrees, and he is a person...
Bro, this dude better summon Ra or Obelisk. Just do it, bro. Do it. You have it.
That actually does, in his downtime with his friends, plays Yu-Gi-Oh still. He plays Master Duel, and he got pretty fucking far online. Every time I watch him play, I'm like, dude...
Hey. Watch out those cuss words, man. We're not trying to fucking cuss on here.
How do you even do it? And he's like, look, talent doesn't go away. But he does acknowledge the problem with the game is if you don't play a specific way, or if you don't play with a specific deck type, then you're not going to have a good time.
Not necessarily. What deck type are you talking about, right? Are you talking about a certain archetype that's at the top? This video was made about 4 months ago. So 4 months ago, we were in the full of, I believe, what was 4 months ago? Right now it's December. So November, October, September, August time, right? This is probably made in August, where Dueling Nexus was released, where plenty of archetypes were viable and doing really well. So I don't know what he means by certain deck types, right? Like, does he mean archetypes, or does he mean like types in general? Or I'm sure, yes, I think spellcasters, dragons, those type of things warriors are pretty powerful type-wise historically. Like, they're not as, winged beasts are not as good, pyros are not as good, but I don't know what he means there by types.
He always harkens back to the time where, okay, people could say, oh yes, using the same traps, the same spells, this, that. These are just people that reference the first few years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or at least these are people just acknowledged what the show taught them. These are not people using logical arguments behind the game, okay? Because then how is it when you play games such as Legacy of the Duelist or Master Duel, you can still fuse old cards with new cards and still be able to win? But no, these people who say stuff like that, who say that there's nothing wrong with the game, that it's perfect, or even say, yeah, there's power.
Who says the game is perfect? This seems like a straw man of the argument, right? A logical fallacy, right? If you're arguing, you're making this video to argue your point to some hypothetical person in your comments, or some hypothetical Yu-Gi-Oh player that doesn't agree with your presuppositions. Your argument is just a logical fallacy of straw man, right? You're saying, oh yes, this is your argument. I'm pretty sure no one that plays this game, from the people that played from 2002 to the people that started 2 years ago, right after COVID, there is 0% of those players that would say the game is perfect. The game is perfect? Who would say that? Come on, man. That's a sweeping universal claim. Got to get a little bit better argument. I'm sorry.
Power creep there, but they're not going to acknowledge it. Those are not people that are fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to say it right now. People who defend the modern style, they aren't fans of the game. They're fans of...
That's another general claim that has no substance to it. Or has no substance to it, not sustenance. There's no substance to that claim. You can't prove that someone that likes the modern game is someone that doesn't like Yu-Gi-Oh! What does that mean? What is Yu-Gi-Oh? Old Yu-Gi-Oh? I mean, come on, man. The game has had different iterations, different formats throughout time. And the game that we play today is a lot different than the old game, right? You summon a lot more, you activate a lot more. It's like almost like an anime fight in a way. For you to just say, these people are not fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, the game is called Yu-Gi-Oh! On the back of modern cards. Let me see if I can find one. Here it is. It says Yu-Gi-Oh! On the back, right? And it's a newer card, right? Crusadia, kind of ass archetype. But like, what are we talking about? Like, this is... I don't like these arguments at all. These are very, let's say, to be nice, mid-tier arguments.
The power creep. Because it proves that there's many other games out there they could play, right? They probably get their ass kicked a lot playing different types of games. Why do they like playing Yu-Gi-Oh? And I'm talking about the modern fans. They like playing Yu-Gi-Oh because you can easily break the game. And what's the point of the game if the duel ends in 2 or 3 minutes?
I've played GOAT format. I've played other older formats. I've played modern stuff. I've played since I got back into the game, since 2014-ish, 15-ish. I don't think I've ever had a game end in like 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, if you make some FTK board like 3 or 4 years ago and your opponent just scoops it up, sure, but even that combo that you did took longer than 2 to 3 minutes. So I don't think I've ever seen a game go 2 to 3 minutes. You might have meant to say 2 to 3 turns, which does happen quite often. But if in those 2 to 3 turns you have hundreds of actions, which those hundreds of actions would have been just divided amongst a bunch of turns before, you're still getting essentially the same amount of gameplay. I just played a game with my friend. We played Branded versus Fire King. The game one went 42 minutes, 43 minutes. If we were to side and try to even get to a game 2, there was no time for that. let's say 43 minutes for one game of back and forth interactive play. And no one was slow playing. Sure, maybe the guy was learning Fire King, so it's a little bit more thinking through his moves. But overall, there was interactions, all sorts of different play lines that were happening in real time that you had to adapt to for 40 minutes, as opposed to old school gameplay where you'd set some cards pass and then like, oh, I'll chain my Sakuretsu armor on your attack, and then it goes back to me, and then it's just simplistic. I'm not going to say caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! I love that style, but let's be real. I mean, if we're talking about skillful, I think the modern game is more skilled. I don't think there's a debate about that, but let's continue.
You know, they're probably like, oh, the original style is boring. Yes, we will profile it. But no, it's not that it's boring. It's tension-filled. That's what it is. They don't like tension. They don't want nobody to threaten their broken decks or broken style of play. Okay? The fun about Yu-Gi-Oh! Back then, and at least up to a certain point, was you can have, yes, there was probably multiples of the same card, and yeah, you can see the same cards repeated, but it depends how you use those cards. It depends in which style and in which form that you use them.
It depends
or
also
the
today.
circumstances that the cards came into play. I play with Matt Kiyoma, right? My buddy Matt Kiyoma, he plays the modern style of Yu-Gi-Oh! And he criticizes it, but he still plays it.
Everyone does.
And he's really good at the game. I've never touted myself as somebody who's been good at the game, but I enjoy playing it, and I've had my fair share of win streaks and victories. Hell, I've gone to a few tournaments myself down here in Florida back when they used to have it here at the Mosey Hotel, and these were statewide tournaments. I would at least get to fifth or fourth place, and you know, I wouldn't pride myself thinking I was the best.
I'm not trying to hate, truly, but if you got fourth or fifth place, you'd remember what you would have gotten, right? You would have remembered what your highest placing is. It's a pretty cool achievement to like you. That's not something that just would drop out of your head. It's like one of those core memories that is burned. Like you'd remember your highest placing. I'm sorry. I this feels like a weird to just say, oh, fourth or fifth or whatever I placed. I don't even remember.
The fact that I made it that far was good for me, and people were cool, and people were like very respectful. But now when you play against modern Yu-Gi-Oh fans, they like to throw it in your face that, oh, I've defeated you, I have this. They like to trash you.
I'm calling cap on that super hard. If you're playing against people in real life, for the most part, I believe, I want to say it's a 90% chance that your opponent is nice, respectful, especially at bigger tournaments. Sometimes you'll get that 1 out of 10 dudes. You're playing against, this many dudes. One of those guys is going to be, a little bit crazy. Sure, rude, whatever, saucing on you, all that stuff. But it has not been my experience that people of the modern game are any worse than they were before.
The morality of Yu-Gi-Oh really has gone down the toilet, and
Hard disagree.
Konami doesn't seem to be improving that.
How does
They
Konami
rather
improve the morality?
foster and support the toxic part of the fan base by giving them constant broken cards, constant abilities, always change.
Is that why Konami wants to support the toxic part of the game? Is that why they make they always give constant old school support for players just like you or me? Here's new Dark Magician stuff. Here's new Blue Eyes stuff. And because we know you don't really care about the competitive aspect of the game, we make this good, but not insane enough to get hit on the ban list. So you can just play your deck, never have to worry about the ban list, and just, rock and roll, right? Konami supports this toxicity, whatever that toxic means. Is that what they print the great insane cards in high rarity, right? Is that how they support it? They're literally in anything, if anything, in the TCG, I think they punish competitive players more because you literally have to drop hundreds of dollars for the highest competitive cards. If you want to play this type of style, you can. No one stops you. You can play your own ban list if you want, if you're playing with your friends, right? I don't get the point of this.
Changing the rules, thinking they're making the game better, but they're really not. Every time they improve one thing, they set the game back by 7 times. Okay? That's not how a card game should be. Let me use Pokemon, for example. Pokemon might introduce a bunch of Pokemon cards, different types of Pokemon and things like that, but the fundamental core of the game is still the same. You can still play
So go play Pokemon, right? If that's what you want, if Pokemon has stayed true to itself, then go play Pokemon. I'm pretty sure they have issues with power creep also. Just taking a casual look over some of those cards that they drop, those VMAX, Gigantamax, some of those monsters have like 300 hit points, right? When the best card back in the day had 120, right? Breaking the 100 barrier was crazy. Now every other card has like over 150 hit points from my experience. I don't play the game, but just from the outward look at it.
Pokemon from when it first came out up to this point.
Ooh,
Magic
I
the
get you.
Gathering. You can still play Magic the Gathering. The same rule set is the same. The same way to play the game is still the same. It's just there are new and different cards. Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh is still the same game. It just has different extra deck mechanics attached to it. The biggest change that they've had to do was the extra monster zone, which I disagree with. I don't like the extra monster zone or really link monsters in general, but I don't get Yu-Gi-Oh's a different game inherently. It really isn't, right? It really isn't. It's just way, way more intense because there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's not a different game. The cards still do the same. You have monsters, spells, traps, and extra deck monsters. Where's the change, right? You had a claim. Your claim would be correct in Master Rule 4 when basically you could only play links. But other than that, and possibly during Pendulum format. But overall, like the game right now is pretty similar in terms of what cards you use and how you use them compared to the old game.
Was once beloved by everybody, but now it is only beloved by a certain sect of people in the fandom that defend the broken nature. And that's not how a game should be. You know, don't they realize that the common denominator of the problems of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not only comes from the broken nature of certain cards or the rules, all the way to why a lot of people are not even playing it anymore? Do they not think about that? No, they don't. They only think about what's the next broken set of cards I can use so my opponent can't play the game. And if you go back...
That is partly true. A giant section of the fan base likes to play that style. You are correct. They love to play the I make my crazy board and you can't play. But Konami, in the recent years, actually has done a solid job in not making those decks the craziest decks in the game. Combo is not ran. We don't have Max C, and combo is still, for the most part, not ran. If you look at the popularity of current formats, what combo deck is like killing it? Right now we're talking about, this is end of 2023, early 2024. Manadium is the best combo deck, maybe Infernoble, and they don't get tops. The only time Infernoble tops is when Pac does it, and the only time that Manadium tops is when Triff does it. Otherwise, those combo decks don't top. The top decks in the game are mid-range deck of Rescue Ace, Unchained, Tearlaments. Right? These three decks, I'd say Tearlaments is maybe more towards combo. They can make an unbreakable board. But still, it's not anything crazy. There's so many counters to it, right? So I'm genuinely not understanding this. Like, players intentionally can choose to play Manadium and Infernoble, and they don't. They choose to play Unchained, which is power level-wise definitely less. Unchained Rescues are power level of end board is a lot less than Manadium and Infernoble, which definitely do lock out your opponent from playing. But guess what? People don't play these decks. They play the more fun decks where there's interaction. In fact, I would say the majority, it might not be a huge majority, but I think the majority of modern players actually like the interaction more than they like unbreakable boards. That's why most players don't play purely or whatever, because they don't want to run towers.
Back through the comment section of my video, there's nobody there who has actually been able to argue in defense of the broken nature. There's actually people who have argued with them in favor of what I have said. And it's not a matter of, I don't choose to agree with people. You have your own opinion and free voice. Hey, that's why we have free will.
Yeah.
But the difference is, it's how you form the argument, it's how you form the opinion. Okay? And a lot of people have said, modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Does suck. And it's right now in the...
A lot of people, right? That's a weird claim. That's a lot of people. It's like, oh, my uncle, he knows this thing. That's why you should believe me. It's like, that's a anecdotal claim. You're claiming an anecdote. A lot of people, that I'm sure the rest of that sentence would be, that I've talked to agree with me. Sure, that doesn't make the claim correct. This is a subjective game, subjective opinions. Everyone can have their own opinion. But you claiming this as like a universal fact that, no, the game is fully broken. It has some broken aspects, sure. Sometimes if you go first, your opponent doesn't open up non-engine to be able to fight your board. The game sometimes feels broken, right? It feels like you are helpless. Sure, agreed, 100%. No one says the game is perfect, contrary to your claim. The game is in about as good of a spot as you can get it with the way Konami approaches the game. They can do more things to fix this type of stuff, but they give us smaller engines and decks so you can run more hand trap, board breakers, whatever, to be able to deal with these boards, right? Makes the game interactive on turn 0. Even in the past, the turn 1 player, you draw 6 cards, your opponent draws 5. You hit them with pot of green delinquent duo. Oh man, that was so skillful. Nothing broken here. I just drew and discarded 2 cards away from you. What is that? A plus like 3? Like, come on. You know what I mean? It seems like this is just back in my day kind of situation. Even though I am one of these people who also enjoys the old game. I feel like you're reaching a lot right here, bro.
The state that it is not going to get any better. Okay? There's even Yu-Gi-Oh channels, okay, who I like watching the Yu-Gi-Oh channels, like TCG Anime and everything like that. They've even stated themselves, even he stated, it's like, as much as he loves the game is fundamentally broken. Like, there's just no arguing that. There's no debating that fact. The game is fundamentally broken.
Anything can be debated if you present your argument well. If you have facts behind you, it can be debated. Depends on what you're looking from a game, right? You are just making claims without any support. You're just claiming that some people agree with you, and therefore that means that your opinion is correct, that your claim is correct. It isn't, right? Not that your claim isn't correct. It's that your reasoning for your claim being correct is wrong, right? You need more than some people think this. And it has the same opinion as me. Some people have said this. This guy once, this YouTuber said this. That's not good argumentation, right? That's appeal to authority, appeal to consensus. Pretty much every logical fallacy that you can think of, you're making.
Broken. There's people saying, John, there was a video made about roasting your Yu-Gi-Oh video. You deserved it. I was like, okay. And then when I watched the video, I was like, oh, great. A guy who's into biased power creep. Great. So why am I going to listen to someone like that?
You say that, but you are biased, right? Like, biased power creep. What do you mean biased power creep? He's into power creep. That's what you should say, right? What do you mean biased power creep? And no, he might not be into power creep, but it's a game that he's played his whole life. He enjoys quite a lot. And so in the modern form, he's able to carve out a little niche where he can play a certain type of deck and enjoy going to locals, going to regionals, going to YCS, and having a good time with the current game, right? It's a game. That's one thing we need to get through here. This is a game. It's not life. It's not something crazy important in your actual life. It shouldn't be, right? This is a game. The point of a game is to have fun, right? And if I claim I have fun with the current game, and I claim I have fun with the old game, and you claim that the modern game sucks because of this, and this guy told me, and these are not good arguments, right? You might subjectively not be having fun in today's game. That doesn't make your claim correct, right? What you feel is not fact, right? That's, I think, what people are kind of misconstruing about the modern society. My feelings are facts. No, they're not, right? They're not facts.
That's just really what it is. You don't see me
not.
out here insulting the Yu-Gi-Oh fan base by saying they suck, but I will say that the toxic part of the fan base, because don't say there isn't a toxic part of the fan base. Every fandom has a toxic part of the fan base.
Yes.
And that part of the fan base, you can't tell them nothing. Right now, I want to say this. It's fake fans and fans of power creep that are more so in control of the franchise right now. At least the franchise card game. Not the franchise as a whole. I'm just talking about the card game. Because if you look back and if you look at those comments, they have...
Power creep is a result of Konami's greed. That's it. It's not the fans' fault for playing that deck. They want to play the game. They want to play in a competitive manner. And the only competitive mode is advanced format. There is some side events like Time Wizard stuff, but overall the main competitive form is advanced format. Would it be nice if Konami gave us other formats? Yes, I think that would be great. I think they're really lacking on it.
No arguments. That's all they said. There's one comment that is interesting, and it explains Yu-Gi-Oh to it. If you look at those comments, they have no arguments. That's all they said. There's one comment that is interesting, and it explains Yu-Gi-Oh to a T with the way he said it. This guy's Jinkazama 1993. This is a comment from him. Yu-Gi-Oh used to be kind of like chess, and now it's just throw up.
It was never like chess ever, right? It was chess if you start out with 5 pieces, you randomize the pieces you get, and sometimes you'll get you draw the queen and your opponent draws 5 pawns, and then you smoke them, right? That's how it is still to this day. So you're still under that RNG 5-card opening hand. You're under the yoke of that, I guess. It was never like chess. Chess is inherently the most fair game ever designed. Yu-Gi-Oh was never that. Right? This is definitely rose-colored glasses talking.
Your entire deck on top of the board and call it a victory. And that explains Yu-Gi-Oh very well. Yu-Gi-Oh was tense the more turns came into play. Like, the longer the game went on, the more tense it got.
The game is plenty
the
tense.
The more you
Tension
can't
is still in
anticipate
the
what your
game
opponent
today.
is doing. And just because you know what cards he's using, that doesn't mean you're able to stop them, because it depends how the card is used. Now, don't get me wrong. Yu-Gi-Oh still has good things about it. Plenty of good things about it. Okay?
Thank you.
And
Finally.
I'm not going to blame people for what era they choose to play or how
They
they choose to
can't
play the
choose.
game. But I will separate and distinguish those who actually love the game and will fight for the game by telling people this is what's wrong with it. Okay? Because we're not drones.
That's fine. Just have good reasoning. You seem a little bit to be rambly here. Just kind of randomly what's on the kind of stream of consciousness, which is fine. But you feel what it feels like. You feel like you're making these grand claims that are just, you're dunking on all these people, when in reality, it just seems like, my feeling is this. My feeling is this. It's very low tier.
That people that
No
say
pun
this, we're
intended.
not dedicated and devoted fanboys. We know how to talk about the game. Okay, so if you make a Yu-Gi-Oh video, this is my advice for anybody. If you make a Yu-Gi-Oh video calling out the faults of the game, and if you see comments saying you're a Yu-Gi-Oh boomer, or talking trash about the old gen of the game, or calling your skills a question, just know that they are fake fans, and just know that they have no argument.
Bro, what do you
Okay,
mean,
and the best thing you
bro?
can do is just
What
say,
do you
well,
mean?
thanks for the view. Because at the end of the day, what these idiots are doing for you is they're giving your point traction.
Also, using insults like idiot, words like idiot casually and all that, like it just seems very, like you seem to be in your feelings here, right?
They invoke what is called the what is it? The Streisand effect. When they say, "Oh, you shouldn't watch this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about, Yu-Gi-Oh," they're gonna have the opposite effect. Like, I saw two videos from a guy called Mega Capital G or Meta Capital G. Let me look this
Shout
up
out
real
Mega-
quick, 'cause
Mega
I don't wanna
Capital
lose
G.
my brain on this. Mega Capital G. Okay, he could have made a video simply explaining why I was wrong.
I don't know anything about this.
Without
Let's
bond.
just go through this.
You could have just said I was wrong, but the fanboys wanted to hear.
Okay.
And what I'm not going to do with my videos, I don't go into getting confirmation bias. See, that is the distinct difference of what you need to
We
know.
all
Okay?
are
When
susceptible to
making a video
confirmation
about
bias.
Yu-Gi-Oh, and if you call out the toxic part of the fandom, or if you call out the poor mechanics of the game that has been getting worse and has not improved, you have people that saying, well, if Konami didn't do this, Yu-Gi-Oh would have been forgotten. No, it wouldn't have, because that excuse doesn't hold up.
It's a what if game. You can't be really sure. Yeah, you can't be sure that would have happened or that wouldn't have happened.
Because that means you would have to say, well, Pokemon wouldn't have held up. Magic the Gathering wouldn't have held up. Hell, why are people still playing Solitaire to this day?
I believe those
The mechanics of the game
games have
didn't
set
change.
rotation.
All they did was just introduce new cards, but it didn't change the game. So those excuses and defenses don't hold up.
Yeah, like in those other games that you keep listing, you literally can't even play some of the stuff you want to play because it's been rotated out, right? While here you're clearly playing Dark Magician, which pretty sure would be rotated out of even being able to be used, right? So I don't understand like comparing widely different games. Like they have lands, they have energy, right? They're different games, completely differently structured, right? So comparing this to like Gwent, right? Oh man, can you believe like Gwent has this and it's like reasonably powerful? Yeah, dude, like it's that's the way the game was structured, right? This game literally didn't have a ban list for years. Then when it finally, the only way they realized they could handle the power was hitting old stuff and then releasing slightly better stuff because, whoa, it's crazy. Konami needs money, right? They're a business, and without it, they would have died
under scrutiny.
or went under.
So, again, the Yu-Gi-Oh card game is not in this magical spot that people think it's in. It's not in this perfect position, okay? In fact,
No one
people
said it's in
think
perfect
very
position.
negatively
Who says
about
that?
Yu-Gi-Oh
Please
because
find me
of the
one
problems
person
I have addressed,
who
because
claims
of the
Yu-Gi-Oh
problems
is
I will
perfect.
continue to address, you know? And the best thing I can do is continue to address why Yu-Gi-Oh is in the position that it's in. And people are going to say, what position is in? What is that? You know, they're just not going to be able to argue this without name calling, insults, and you know how you know you're doing a
But
good
you're
job,
doing
like
that.
me making
Like I'm not even understanding the argument. You're literally just saying these idiots, but then you say that these supposed people, they name call you, blah blah blah. I don't get it. Like in this whole video, 14 minutes in, I have not heard an actual claim backed up by like reasonable evidence, right? Like I think you said a few things, like maybe one or two things that made somewhat sense, but overall it just been, I feel like if you cut out all of the I just feel, I just think, I feel this way, I think you would have made this video like 3 minutes long.
in this video and them, it triggers them. Why? Because they say, we don't care what you have to say. Well, then why did you watch? Why do you comment? Why are you trying to argue your point? Of course you care. Fucking Neanderthals. Like that.
That's another insult. Also, it's a debate. You like this game, the other people like this game, and so when you comment and you say, this is the facts, they're going to be like, no, because you're claiming your opinion, your feeling is a fact, where their opinion, their feeling, they feel that's a fact. And that's where this misunderstanding comes from. Neither of these are facts. It's a game. The point of a game is to enjoy it. So if you get enjoyment out of the game, it's a good game. It's fun. It's like worthy of existing. You're claiming that modern game is trash because you don't enjoy it, which is just low tier. It's your opinion. Your feelings. It's not good argumentation.
That's a Neanderthal type of thought that they're like, we don't care, but we're going to take the effort.
Also, why
to
are you
comment
responding to these cringe
and say
words?
why we don't care? You see what I mean? How these guys are just very easy to clown, and nothing they say holds up. I'm gonna link my original, well, not my original, but when this video is done, I will link both videos, both part 1 and part 2, and you guys can see for yourself in the comment section that these guys can't argue the game. Now, it's sad to say that the most hardcore defenders can't even argue for the game's defense, but yet people who have retired from the game, I've read their comments, and they can actually form an argument saying, you know, I can agree to disagree with you on this. And
that's fair. That's a really good way to end the argument, because you clearly see that person doesn't agree with you. You don't agree with them. You just move right past the point, because you can't get to an objective truth. It's a game, right? What is the objective truth behind Yu-Gi-Oh? You claim the old game is objectively better. It isn't. It isn't. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a slog of 30 turns that takes forever, sure. But in the modern game, one turn, there's so many actions to truly consider and remember, and interactions, that the game has never been more skill driven than it is in the modern game. Because what is skill? It's remembering effects, understanding matchups, remembering all your interactions, understanding every aspect of your deck and your opponent's deck and how they interact, right? In the past, that was easy. Like what? You're going to pot of greed, set them off, your opponent attacks into it, you return pot of greed, draw again. Like these are, like, unless they have nobleman or cross out, then you lose that interaction, right? These are very basic interactions. It's like my first deck, my first Yu-Gi-Oh, right? It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not claiming that it's not a good format, but in terms of skill level, which a lot of people enjoy more skilled Yu-Gi-Oh, if you are trying to enjoy this game as a casual turn your brain off and let's just like mess around, those old formats are great. But if you're trying to actually be a master and feel like you're really, really contributing to a win, I mean, it's hands down the modern game for that aspect.
The smart people. Those are the smart ones because they can actually form critical thought about the game. You know, and those are the ones I'll interact. I'm not going to interact with people that are just going to come to insult you because you hurt their fifis calling out the problems with the game. And I'm going to continue to say it. People who defend the power creep and who defend the broken nature of the game aren't fans of the game. They are fans of their ego. They are fans of the power that they have and the satisfaction from shitting on others and not allowing others to enjoy the game. Those are one of the problems with current Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Konami's failing to balance the power creep, failing to address the audience for each era and giving them reasons to continue to play. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs to be played in
Agreed.
eras.
Agreed.
You can't just...
Yes, this is your best point that you've made. These formats should exist. I think the game then would be played by more people. I think a lot of people that don't play the modern game would play those old formats, and therefore I don't think it would split the fan base as some people might fear. I genuinely think that would be a really good idea, right? I think this is your best point. This is probably what this video should have been focused on, not kind of rambling, in my opinion.
Just have all in one. That causes big problems.
Agreed.
And that causes unfairness for people. Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be divvied up into eras, and they need to limit the rate of all these special summonings from the extra deck.
Disagree.
And cards that allow you to go into your deck. And
there should be no rules made to limit special summoning activations, blah, 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 because that's never been the case. The game was never like that from the show, from the old game, right? Now the cards are too powerful. The best way to handle this is by having a very good ban list, right, to hit some of the top stuff, and then future stuff that they release, be harsher on the ban list, hit some of the decks that are out, and release reasonably powered decks. You can theoretically, with good ban list management, have a game stay at pretty much the same power level for a decade with no change in actual power of the cards as long as your ban list is good. If you look at it right now, the decks we play are nowhere near Tier Lemon's format power, right, when Tier was at full power. That deck bodied everything because that deck was the epitome of power creep and stupidity. It was skillful, sure, but in terms of power creep, it was off the charts, right? So these decks that came out a year and change after Tier are nowhere near the power level of Tier, right? That's how you manage a game. Correct ban list. I would argue Konami should probably go to a little harsher ban list that we've seen in the recent time. Hit these decks, release like good archetypes that are about the same power level as the old stuff that do new cool things. Don't just release the same thing with a reskin. That'd be stupid. But just release something new. I get it. Konami's a company. They need to make money, right? We all have to be reasonable here, right? The game would die if Konami stopped making money. So let's continue.
Pull out anything you want. Those need to be limited highly. And there's people who have even said that, yes, it makes sense to limit that. But until that time, Konami is just going to continue to foster the toxic part.
I'm going to stop interrupting, but for example, let's say you limit summons from the extra deck, right? You can only summon 3 times from the extra deck or in one turn, or you can only special summon 3 times. The next set that comes out, there'll be a deck that you'll make. Let's say it's like an Xyz deck, right? It'll be special summon this monster, special summon this monster, overlay, and that monster will be straight up crazy. And then the problem will still be power creep. The problem will still be this deck is retarded. This deck is so stupid. This deck's too powerful, blah, blah, blah. This deck is insane. We need to limit it to 1 summon, right? Arbitrary rules, that's just something Konami will play around. The evidence for this is when they released Nibiru. Nibiru was dunking on everything. What was you have 5 summons to play with. What was the adaptation by the players and Konami? okay, we have to deal with Nibiru. Let's give this deck an option to summon a negate or be able to play through that by summoning so much more, right? That arbitrary rules will not fix this game. Just like how people thought links would slow the game down, it doesn't. Arbitrary rules will not. The only way to control the game is a really good ban list where they hit stuff very harshly and reasonably powered decks that replace the old guard. Almost like a weird set rotation.
Part of the Yu-Gi-Oh fandom. Okay? And people are going to say what they want about what I have to say. I really don't care what they have to say. I'm not going to acknowledge those people.
Part of the game.
I'm just going to sit back and laugh at them because I know at the end of the day,
you of course care. You
I
call
love
them
the
idiots
game.
and
Despite its
Neanderthals.
flaws, I love the game. And if you love something, you're going to criticize something.
You let it go.
You will criticize it because you want to see it get better. The Yu-Gi-Oh fandom has become basically the Call of Duty fan base, where they have developed such a fucking toxic community that you don't know who's right, who's wrong, or how to even balance the game. Because if you balance the game, then you're going to piss off the people who love power creep. If you support the people that do power creep, you're going to piss off the people that actually enjoy to play the game correctly.
All right, that's enough. I can't do this anymore. I think, like, I don't want to be mean here, and I don't want anyone to go to this man's channel and leave mean comments and stuff like that. Actually, I get where this dude's frustration comes from. I don't think, I think if I had to lean one way or the other, I would say I lean towards his opinion, where the game is a little too power crept now. I just think he reaches where one truth he extrapolates into other things. Like the power creep is a little out of control, therefore the new game sucks, right? That's you're skipping a step there. The game is sweet, it has its problems. Back in the day, the game was sweet and it had its problems. And it's been like that as long as the games existed. At the end of the day, it's what you have fun with. You have fun with the old, you have fun with the new, right? If you do, play that. And Konami, if you're watching, probably not, but if you're watching, make these different formats. Guys like this would love to play these old school formats where it's obviously slowed down, like what he's playing here, Bakura versus some Dark Magician deck. Give them the option. Give different lists. We should kind of look at Magic the Gathering as an example, for sure. But, at the risk of rambling further, I'm gonna stop. This video wasn't too bad. I just feel like this guy kind of rambled more. It's more like a rambly video. And for the sake of me not starting the same thing, I appreciate anyone that's gotten this far. And I want to thank all you guys for watching. If you made it this far, like the video, subscribe for more, because with those subscriptions, likes, all that stuff, it gives me the inspiration to keep going hard into this, right? So thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.